we're going to dive into our little packet of a little present and unwrap the bow and present. I think first of all, I'll share my news pick, or the top of my list, and that is an article whose headline is "Ancient Household Rubbish Could Unlock the Secrets of Devon's History," and I find this really pleasing. I find this to be such a refreshing change of pace and tone for news covering an archaeological excavation, because normally you can detect sort of the sticky fingers of an editor or a journalist who wants to make something a bit more exciting by maybe saying, we found the oldest, or we found treasure, or we found the earliest example of something. Whereas actually here,
or is the Portable Antiquities Scheme pumping the latest treasure find with the financial value?
well, yes, exactly, yes, yes. So worth £60,000, this kind of thing. Whereas actually here we have the University of Exeter, who've clearly, seemingly put out a press release, and it's been quoted verbatim. We have Professor Stephen Rippon, who is leading the archaeological work. It says here, quoted as saying, "We can use animal bones to reconstruct past patterns of farming. If animals such as sheep were killed at a young age, then they were being kept for their meat. Lamb, whereas if they were, oh, sorry, meat as lamb, that is, sorry, of course. Whereas if they were kept into old age, then they were being kept for their wool and even their milk. Some of the bones that we have found have cut marks on them from when they were butchered," this kind of thing. And it's just a nice, simple one step from the mouth of the archaeologist to the written page, and he's presenting bread and butter ideas from archaeological excavations in terms of how we interpret things like seasonality and understand the function of a site in a way that's uninhibited, as it were, or unencumbered, I suppose, by someone else, by a third party, I guess. It's just a refreshing thing to see.
I agree with you completely. It takes on really. I suppose it's one of the oldest jokes in archaeology, and the patron saint of modern British archaeology used it as the title in the book.
Yeah.
Archaeology is rubbish, wrote Tony Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
And
so is Tony Robinson the patron saint, or is Mick Aston?
I think they're a duo of patron saints.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay.
In terms of modern British archaeology. There we are. I would be prepared to defend that in front of a CIFA panel.
Wow.
But no, in all seriousness, it is, like you say, it is great to see archaeology explained in ways which are accurate and exciting, but also approachable. It's like, you use the archaeological jargon term quite rightly, seasonality, because we're two archaeologists talking to each other and we understand the jargon. But a lay member of the public who might be really interested in the place where they live might not understand what seasonality is. But that particular newspaper piece explains it in clear, simple language. It's about the age of bones, and you can equate them to seasons. And again, we know the backstory. I can't remember the site off the top of my head. It's a Roman temple in Essex, which is one of the first places where this was recognised, that the excavators undertaking the bones analysis found that there were a lot of lamb bones, and from that postulated that there was a significant culling, probably tied to a religious festival in the late spring.
And you can extrapolate that, because when lambs are born, that's the lambing season.
Exactly.
And then when they're being killed, because the bones are a certain age, and
Absolutely.
when in the year they're, because not to interrupt, but I mean, often we'll see in papers and publications, we'll see little graphs of this many of this age of animal, this many of this age of animal, and it gives you a sense of when people are actually occupying a site and how it's being used. Yeah,
exactly, and a sense not just of how it's being used, but a sense of the community's year, of the farming year. It's really important primary evidence of what those people were doing and how they were living their lives, how they were shaping their environment, and the animals that were part of it were how they were farmed and used. So it's really high, good, nutty, high level analytical stuff. but it's being explained in a really clear way as to why it's important, why it's interesting, and and it's being related back to the lives of that community, both in the past, but in the present as well. So, I think it's a great thing to see in a local popular website. I mean, we picked it up from from a website, from a local news website. We assume it may have gone out as well in a print version in a local newspaper. But that brings me on really to the other point I draw from this, and it's really a sort of one of journalism's dirty little secrets. It's that.
Are you hiking up journalism's skirt at the moment?
Well, the thing is, with the rise, and we're partly responsible for it. We're part of the quotes new media, the online, the free to access, and so on, which is one of the things. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the things that's had a major impact on particularly local newspapers. Local newspapers now, certainly in Britain, tend to be owned by one large company. There are a lot of economies of scale, which means a lot of journalists have lost their jobs. The upshot of that is something called churnalism, which is churning out a press release. Churnalism, as opposed to journalism. Churnalism. Okay. What churnalism is churning out a press release as original copy.
Okay.
So you'll get a press release in from somebody. You'll make minimal changes to it to fit with your house style, and put it out there on your website or in your print edition. Right. Sometimes even with a fake byline or no byline at all. In this case, there was actually no byline on the piece. So that suggests that what they've taken is a press release from Exeter University, probably. That said, again, the university haven't. They've done as you pointed out. It looks as though the origin of the writing is very close to the excavation team. It's the kind of things that
it's the kind of thing that often even the a university's own press office won't allow an excavation team to do. Often they'll get in the way and they'll sort of try and tart it up a little bit in some way, or dumb the language down somewhat.
That's right.
But they don't seem to have done that here.
No, and the result is it's a terrific little piece.
Yeah. Okay. Just to elaborate there, just in case people thought I was using a grossly outdated term, I was talking to my lovely wife, Mrs. Soup, this morning about secrets and looking at skirts. I didn't mean that in a dodgy way. We were rifling through journalism's sock drawer. There you go. That's more like it.
Yes.
So
I'm pleased you clarified that.
Excellent. That's my pick then. What's your sort of top of the list for this little bundle of news stories?
Well, I mean, it's been as you say, it's been a busy month, and we're at the end of the British excavation season, when all the training projects and research projects have been working. So a lot of people are putting out press releases and end of season interim reports and things like that. So there's been a lot of fantastic work going on this summer, as we alluded to a couple of watching briefs back. We've had the added excitement of all the new discoveries that have come about through the fact we've had a very dry summer, and we're seeing a lot of crop and parch marks that maybe haven't been recognised before, or we're adding to evidence that was seen from the previous long dry summer in '76. But I've actually not gone for any of that. I think we'll probably catch those up in the next few months. It's actually quite a little story, literally a little story. It's only about 12 centimetres long, this thing. But it's a story that we picked up from Live Science, the website. And it's a papyrus which is in the collection of Macquarie University in Australia, which has just been published in the Journal of Coptic Studies by Corsi Dussou, who is a lecturer at the University of Strasbourg. So it's an international piece of work. It's an Australian university, but it's a French academic who's written this up. And it's a wonderful little artifact. It's a leaf of papyrus, maybe from a codex, maybe from a roll. It's not made clear. But it's from the Coptic period of Egyptian history, so it's sort of roughly, broadly speaking, post-Pharaonic, even post-Roman Empire. We're into the sort of Byzantine period, roughly, the pre-Islamic period. And it it has some Coptic script on it, and it also has a wonderful illustration of what appear to be sort of jazz hands embracing two fantastical winged creatures that may be birds or something like that. And the translation appears to show that it is a leaf from a magician's spellbook, and it's to do with love and relationships.
Yeah, and I mean, I love me a little bit of Coptic Christianity. I love this period in sort of, especially the post-Roman world, where you have the Coptic, sort of Irish, Scottish, and Northern England sort of Celtic Christianity. You have the Church of Rome. You have the Greek Orthodoxy, all swirling around each other, trying to sort of negotiate almost, I guess, a sort of a shape and a form for the specifics of what exactly is part of Christianity in particular. And you could go down the Dan Brown route and say that, but that's not really what I'm getting at. It's more about the specifics of and the forms of, for example, liturgy and what is being invoked and what isn't invoked. And in this instance, you have a magician who is using a spell that includes words like "I call upon you, who is Christ, the God of Israel," and then says the next part of the spell includes the words "you will dissolve," and then mentions every child of Adam.
And the thing that struck me when the moment I read that, and that meant that reference to the child of Adam, I immediately thought back to C.S. Lewis and the Narnia books, where he refers to sons of Adam and daughters of Eve. And of course he was a I won't say Christian propagandist, but he was a theological thinker as well as a novelist.
Yeah.
And he was channeling that particular language into his children's novels, and to see it echoed here in something that's 1,500 years older is absolutely fascinating.
It is, and also something else that comes out of the article is the is what's termed here the sort of performative element, in so much as you can imagine that the punter, the client, would see this upside down. So maybe the wizard or magician is going through their book or their scroll, and they come to we found the spell, and they see this weird image, as you say, with the jazz hands and these two birds sort of looking at each other, and it doesn't seem to be directly related exactly to what the spell is about necessarily, but it is enough to sort of to you can imagine a dark room, some incense, maybe some candles, or a tent or something. It'd be perfect.
And again, another echo that set up for me was with a Roman find this time at Lullingstone Roman Villa, which is a few miles down the road from where I'm sitting now. A 4th century room, underground room, windowless room, in the villa, has wall paintings which appear to show figures which have been interpreted as praying figures. Now, this is interpreted very often as an early Christian house church, which is a known phenomenon in early Christianity in the Roman provinces. But again, you would have, by the light of oil lamps or torches, these figures standing around you. They're not life-size. They're large figures standing there with their hands held up in prayer and supplication, because the Drura praying hands is a medieval idea or a more modern idea. At this period, you've got the tradition of invoking the god or gods, the god of your choice. Other deities are available through supplication, palms held up, and so on, which is what we see on this particular this particular artifact, and we have that as well as in the iconography of the wall art in Roman Britain. Again, we've got these cultural connections across the Roman Empire.
Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of this in a certain computer game that I'm going to be mentioning later on in the
Assassin's Creed,
where you see in an ancient Greek context people praying to statues with their hands up and their arms out. It's as you say, it's all tied in with that, and I think something else that we've talked about before we started recording as well was the use of I think it's Greek script. Yes, Greek, and again, it's reinforcing a complicated setting and context for this particular document. But also
incredibly multicultural object. But there's one other thing though, which I think we must cover this. And again, the Live Science article, which is bylined, by a person called Owen Jairus, doesn't duck, and that is that it is unclear when this particular artifact came into and how it came into the Macquarie University collection.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well, yeah, he titles this little section "Mysterious Origins."
precisely.
Mm.
And it points out that the university has a collection of around 900 papyri like this one that appear to have been collected or donated from around about 1972 to the mid-80s. It subsequently stopped accepting papyri like this because they are known to be one of the most trafficked items by artifact thieves from working in Egypt.
Yeah.
They're easily portable, they're easily exportable, they're very easy to hide.
Yeah.
And it's unclear whether this one was originally acquired. We're not blaming Macquarie University here,
No.
but it's unclear whether it was exported from Egypt legally. And certainly if it was exported after 1972, then it's subject to the UNESCO treaty which banned the sale of antiquities, and it may actually be that legally this is the property of the Egyptian government and will at some point have to be returned. That's one for the lawyers. But I think, it's a sort of dark but necessary side to what is actually a really, really nice story. That Western museums, Western collectors have this material, and not all of it is legitimately acquired, unfortunately, and it's an issue that has to be dealt with.
Well, yeah, and in that sense, the edges of this particular section of papyrus do look suspiciously neat, like it's been maybe cut out of something else and possibly passed on. And also, coming from Australia, this also reminds me of I can't quite find her name at the moment, but the story of the old lady. I think she was 98 years old last year.
That's right. She was the wife of a diplomat.
Yeah, who I think ABC. Was it ABC possibly in Australia?
Story, yes.
Yeah,
indeed.
and they were saying that she was an Indiana Jones and a hero, whereas actually this highlighted that maybe her collection was a bit dodgy, and she got a bit of criticism for that.
Indeed, it was suggested that the diplomatic bag might have been used for transporting things other than documents.
Yeah, I'll find the story. I'll put a link to it below as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just to bring this little present, this little box of this little bundle of joy to a close. There are three stories I'd like just to highlight, which I think have a common theme to them, and that is archaeology discovered seemingly by accident. And I like that these three stories have come to my attention this month. So number one is a Greek farmer who stumbled onto a 3,400-year-old tomb hidden below his olive grove. Apparently, he got a vehicle stuck. A tire was stuck in the ground. He was trying to get out of it, and it turned out that he was actually digging into a grave, an 8-foot deep pit containing two ancient coffins. Two Minoan men lay to rest in an underground enclosure carved out of soft limestone in southeast Crete. I found that to be quite cool. So again, there'll be a link below. There's a dog. A dog has found some Bronze Age artifacts, which is quite pleasing. And strangely enough, also a mushroom.
Tell you what, Mark. Actually, if that means the sale of fewer metal detectors and people finding good homes for more dogs, I think that's if dogs can replace metal detectors, that's a good thing. Yeah.
Although the training would be interesting. You'd have to get an ancient bronze artifact and just be like, "Here you go, boy, get the scent." Go. And also mushroom picker found a precious helmet from the late Bronze Age. Now, this does, unfortunately, immediately say the discoveries have a value of €60,000. That's before we even get into the text, and so this does the thing you were talking about a little earlier in terms of the tendencies of news articles to report on this stuff as intrinsically valuable treasure items. But nonetheless, it's another story where someone wasn't expecting to find something and they found some archaeology. So 3 news stories with a certain theme, and we'll link to those below as well.
And there would have been a fourth, but you wouldn't let me have it because it just snuck into October, even though we're recording late this month. So we are definitely going to be doing that fourth one in next month's watching brief,
Yeah.
aren't we, Mark?
Yeah, and we'll have a whole segment to it. It'll be wonderful, and I'm happy to. I'm even happy to watch Monty Python in preparation for that news story. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Just with some moistened. No.
Just because some bink gives you it. Anyway, sorry. So moving on.
Scimitar, actually. But no, in all seriousness, I'd make one point about that, and you know how many great archaeological discoveries have been discovered by accident.
Yeah, yeah.
And it continues to this day. Unfortunately, when things are discovered by accident on commercial sites that weren't predicted in the watching brief, then that can have rather major financial implications for the developer who's funding the excavation works. That's a whole other story. But no, the idea of an accidental discovery, it's literally tripping over something buried and fantastic. It is the stuff of great stories. It's the
my all-time favourite is, and I think it's the Lewis chessmen who were found by a cow. I think.
Yes.
I think the cow was grazing and went, "Oh, what's this?" And I don't think the cow then ran off and went, "I found something." I think obviously the cow was observed, but yeah, that was probably my favourite accidental discovery.
And it's like, you know, one of the first things that when you're trained to do field walking, one of the first things you're trained to do is look at the entrance to rabbit burrows, badger sets, and kick over molehills.
Yeah.
Because of what the animals are bringing up from under the ground.
Yeah, because it's just in their way, and they shove it out the way, or they drag it out, or yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I worked on an assessment at Chisenbury Midden a few years back, and that was badgers in that case were chucking out from the interior of Chisenbury Midden, which is basically this pre-Roman Iron Age party site in Wiltshire on Salisbury Plain, and just fistfuls of Iron Age pottery and bone work bone. Fabulous site. Thank you, badgers.